Broken down and defeated, deterred, busy and confused, sleeping. You're dying while I wait you to get started. On the journey chosen, wasted, now it's selected. I was so bad, what happened? Fall out of the sky and crush me in my smile. I was so bad, what happened? Fall out of the sky and crush me in my smile. Sober, sad and jaded. Then upcoming, they're broken down and defeated. You are dying while I wait you to get started. You are dying while I wait you to get started. I was so bad, what happened? Fall out of the sky, yeah. Crush me in my smile. I was so bad, what happened? Fall out of the sky and crush me in my smile.
I'm a motherfucking unicorn, a one-of-one. The vibe being the love and light, the enlightened one. My karma is interstellar, I live by truth. Fighting evil, my scars are living proof. Protecting you from the storms with all my might. Love me, I will treat you right. You ever cross me, it's the last thing you'll ever do. With my crown of thorns, I'll wreck you. I ain't playing, yo, Reinhardt, call me a saint. Too bad, Chris, because Bigfoot knows my name. I'm a messenger of God, with loyalty I serve, taking out all evil with his holy word. A true Knights Templar, sword in hand, slice you up, bury you in the sand. I'm a motherfucking unicorn, you'll never find anyone like me. Born in the Bronx, raised in NYC, so listen up, take heed. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. A true Knights Templar, sword in hand, slice you up, bury you in the sand. I'm a motherfucking unicorn, you'll never find anyone like me. Born in the Bronx, raised in NYC, so listen up, take heed. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee.
Hello, welcome everybody. I'm going to start this up. I'm just going to get into it because I want music. I want Jimmy. I want everybody. So joining me on this broadcast to help out is an old buddy of mine, Dave Buter. I grew up with. Say hi, Dave. He's a New Yorker. You know this guy, Mark Eddy.
Right.
And let's bring in our guest, the one and only Jimy Bleu. Jimmy, welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to Third Eye Live.
Oh, thank you, Sir Brian. Appreciate being here, man.
You got it's a pleasure to really have you here, and we wouldn't have had you if it wasn't for this guy wearing the headphones on the bottom square. Mark Eddy, just and Mark is like a pit bull. He's like, so you want Jimmy, right? And I'm like, yeah, I do. Just I'm trying to figure out my life. Okay, so we can hook up with Jimmy. I'm like, yes, Mom. It's like he doesn't take no for an answer, but he's really good. And we got Craig Ansel in here, another one of the Beardos. He's there. Al Santariga, Oklahoma Nana. She's freaking awesome. And we've got a bunch of wonderful people. Oh, there he is. Sorry about it. Straw Dog and a few more, but one of the Beards. You were on the Three Beards before I even was asked to be on a Beard. And Craig Ansel was there, and apparently Craig is doing good right now. So, before he wasn't. No, he was doing good.
He needs to start his cooking show.
Yes, I think he should have a cooking show. I think, Craig, you definitely need a cooking show. Maybe cooking with Jimmy. How about that? That would be pretty good, right? Cooking with Jimmy. Coming up this week in Cooking with Jimmy. You play some music in the background, or you just sing or whatever. You just whip some stuff up. It would be great.
Yeah, I'll be the official taster,
Yes. Yes. So Straw Dog saying hello to you. We got the Squatch Father, as they call him. Al Santariga, he's my buddy. He did the other show that I was mentioning backstage to Jimmy. But Al, did you bring cannolis for everybody or what? another New York City based guy. So the only one that's not from New York City is the guy in the bottom square, Mark. So, he's the John Denver of this podcast right now.
Yeah, I live on a country road.
Yes, he does. But so Jimmy.
Yes.
Give a little, some people don't really know what you do and why you're doing it. I have videos, so I can go back to your, we can share video of you doing what you do, but I'd rather hear initially from you, how'd you get involved in this? Where did this come from? It said, hey, Jimi Hendrix, Al Green.
Yeah, I do. Actually, those are the two shows that I do. I do a Jimi Hendrix show. I'm in my 57th year doing that. I started in 1968 when I joined Jimmy's official USA fan club. He had two fan clubs. He had one in London and one in USA. And I also do an Al Green show, which I've been doing for 17 years as well. I used to back up Al. I did 4 dates with Al Green. And
no way. You
just fell in love, man, with this guy.
Oh, that guy. When he was on, I've seen him down in the city. I forgot where I was. I saw him. Was it down or up, like a real uptown? And it almost like he was. I want to say it was very spiritual. Like he almost got. I don't want to use the term the baby Jesus or anything, but Jimmy, he was a reverend, right? And something about it that was mesmerizing.
It's that voice. That's. It's. There are so many great soul singers. You were speaking about Otis Redding earlier. Sam Cooke, go down. But when you say Al Green, say Al Green, because it's that voice. And the Al Green that I do is the golden age, the early '70s stuff, and those hits, man. That voice is incredible.
I love it. My collection. We all grew up with records, and then we had to get the cassettes, and you have to rewind them. I got my boombox literally right behind me. It takes 15 D batteries.
Yeah.
So my kid's like, what's that in the middle? I'm like, that's where you put a cassette. I'm like, what's a cassette?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, it is that voice. It is. It's more than that. It's the way music, in my opinion, and I think we're gonna go this direction. It hits you. It's just it's a force of nature and a force of life.
Oh, indeed, yeah.
So,
Most definitely.
so you started with Jimmy. So why did you start with Jimmy? Because I heard another interview. I was going through some stuff, looking at old Hendrix stuff, and I looked you up, I was looking you up as well. And also Mr. Wonderful down there, Mark, sent me like, check out this video, check this video, check that video, I'm like, okay. Sometimes I do the research, and other times I want to go in fresh without, because if you hear it, sometimes, here he was already asked that question. I don't want to be that guy, But what I heard a story about a young lady, like how most men operate, getting involved in why you Jimi Hendrix, why did that happen? In
1968, I was a junior in high school. I went to Performing Arts High School from the movie Fame, and I don't know if people know it. In the 1980s, it moved and merged with Music and Art, and now it's in Lincoln Center. But when I went, it was at the heart of Times Square, meaning on 46th Street in Times Square. And being a conservative Queens boy, taking him to go to school out in the middle of Times Square every day, I'm surprised I'm still alive, because that was actually the hub of Performing Arts was the hub of the music scene, meaning on 48th Street in Times Square, you had what I call Music Row. You had Manny's, you had Sam Ash, all on one block on 48th between 6th and Times Square. Then, if you on 46th Street, where my high school was, if you went down to about 8th or 9th Street, you had the Scene Club. That's where all of the people, all of the rock stars, that's where they went to jam. That was a really hot club back then. Then if you went 2 blocks over downtown to 44th Street, you had the record plant. Oh, yeah. So every time Jimmy was in that area, he would stop, especially when he was with Buddy Miles, he would stop by Performing Arts and sit on the steps because it was a hangout. Buddy Miles was dating a girl who's, I think it was her sister, his girlfriend's sister or daughter went to Performing Arts. So that was the hangout. They would go on the steps. So when I'd be in the class, let's say I'm in a math class, a history class, and another member from the fan club went to Performing Arts, said, "Oh, Jimmy's downstairs." We'd get right up and just leave the class and go downstairs and hang out, with him. We got him to speak there to a small assembly and everything. So, yeah, it was the center of the action, man. I got into the fan club because you mentioned the girl, there's this girl who was a groupie to like bands like Chicago. Yes. Zeppelin came to New York a few times. She happened to manage her way backstage with them. All of these rock bands, she was a groupie. She was drop dead gorgeous, and she went to Performing Arts. So I was trying to get with her. Oh, yeah. And one day she came to one of the classes I was in, and she had this big orange and blue button that says the official Jimi Hendrix fan club, Warner Reprise Records. So I asked about it. She said, "Yeah, I'm in the fan club, blah, 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 Jimi Hendrix." Now, I was kind of into him, but I was still at that time doing a James Brown tribute since I was in middle school. So I was more into soul music. I heard about Jimmy, but I was more into Sly. If it was going to go outside of soul music, it had to be like Sly or something like that. Yeah. But Jimmy, okay, yeah, he's blah, 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 blah. So I joined the fan club to get with her, which I never did. But I joined the fan club, and then you and I were talking about this backstage. One time I was with a group of people. We were getting high where we usually get high in this student's apartment. Really, it was our uncle's apartment, and we go there to get high. And he came home early one day and caught us. And we just knew here we are in there tripping and smoking and everything. We just knew it was the end for us. And he made us get up and he took us in this editing room. He happened to be one of the photographers for Monterey Pop Festival. And he had this giant, well, it's a small room, but to us back then, the equipment looked like gigantic and all this editing equipment. He showed us raw footage of the Monterey Pop Festival. And we were like, okay, so I'm waiting for Otis Redding because I'm a soul man, right? So I'm like, man, I've seen all these rock groups. Okay, I wasn't that much, I was a little bit into rock, but I wasn't that much. And before I saw Otis, I saw Hendrix. And I remember sitting there like holding the joint and tripping. I'm like, I've never seen nobody move like that with a guitar. I mean, he didn't just stand there and play. He was like moving. He looked like a shaman. And at that point, I was starting to get into like Carlos Castaneda and shamanistic stuff like that. So I said, this guy's doing that with music. I said, that's what I want to do for the rest of my life. So basically, yeah, I confirmed my, admission into the fan club. Matter of fact, his manager, Mike Jeffries, used to have this secretary, Trixie. She used to love kicking us out the office. What, at his management company, you know what I mean? But yeah, we used to go there and hang out there as well, man. But that's how I got involved.
You know what? I mean, I think every male in high school would have taken the same route you took. But it's really weird how that led you to this. And we have some video. We can play some video, down the line, whatever. But I never saw Hendrix live. I only seen the videos, Monterey Pop, Star Spangled Banner over Woodstock and whatever. My younger brother loved Hendrix. That guy below me, Dave, amazing guitar player. And it's killing him right now because he'd like to play. But I
just got a lot of Hendrix going on in my head.
Yeah, so he's got some questions and stuff like that. But like, so when you bring Jimmy to a life again, and you put that on the stage, it's the trio that Jimmy really was playing with for the most part. It was usually someone else was playing drums or someone else was hitting the bass at that point. So where do you start from that, and what stories do you tell relating to the music that you're playing? Is there a rhyme and a reason to it?
Oh, most definitely. And before I answer your question, of course there's a rhyme and reason, because before Jimmy died, he was getting into, first of all, we were speaking about this earlier before, that because of the political climate back then, he was a very dangerous man. A year and a half before he died, he was the highest paid rock star of his time. And he was the most popular rock star just about a year and a half before he died, even more than the Beatles. And the thing that made him different is that he was bringing races together. That is a no-no today. So you can imagine what it was back in the late 60s there. And so he was very dangerous to the powers that be. And also, Jimmy was getting into spirituality, which hopefully we'll get into a little bit later on. That's what I concern myself with. Of course, I do the music, but it's the spirituality that he led me to my path, that is more important to me. And that's where I take it. So in that respect, I do lecture demonstrations on Jimmy, where I not only demonstrate what he was doing and why he plays guitar different from everybody today, including the Steve Vai and Satriani, who are my heroes and who are wizards on the instrument, but Jimmy played it different. His touch was different, and the way he moved with his body, totally different. Nobody's doing that today. Nobody plays guitar like that today. I demonstrate that in my lectures. And I also speak about his spirituality, which is very important, because back then you had multitude of rock stars, from the Beatles, the Grateful Dead, all of them, all of them involved in spiritual paths. And that was very dangerous to people up higher up. I won't mention any names, but certainly that's a dangerous concept to have kids like that coming into their own consciousness.
Yeah, that is dangerous. And by the way, Dave and Mark, whenever you want, just jump in. There's no proper and polite here. It's just like I try to model this as if we're just hanging out in a living room, and the only difference is we're in 4 different parts of the world right now. And it would be great to be in there and hanging out with Jimmy, and just, Dave would have his guitar and he'd be jamming, and Jimmy.
So, Jimmy, you said something. You said that nobody sounded like Jimmy, and you're absolutely correct. I mean, every good guitar player, at least in my opinion, the way you hear the voice of the guitar, you hear the person, so it's very recognizable. And there's nobody who sounds like Jimi Hendrix, and so many people try.
Yeah.
What do you think that is? Is it just the equipment? Is it just him?
Like Miles Davis said, it's his touch. Jimmy played in between the notes, but keep in mind, Jimmy was very limited as a player, and he hung around, before he died, he hung around Larry Coryell, a few other great masters who were showing him things. Larry Coryell was showing him jazz chords, which Jimmy implemented at Woodstock. When you hear Jimmy do the ballad Villanova Junction at Woodstock, you're hearing Larry Coryell chords all through that thing. He had just gotten with Larry Coryell weeks before that concert, and I spoke to Larry at length about the effect that he had on Jimmy. And so he was really starting to, tighten up those limitations that he had. He was very limited. He was blues based. He was hanging around Miles Davis, who was instructing him. There was one point, Miles used to throw these parties. He used to live uptown on 70-something street. And he used to throw these parties, and they were like block parties, meaning the parties would spill out into the street. You know what I mean? And so one of the parties, I went with a few other members of the fan club, and I had to go use the bathroom. And I went through. Here I am walking through Miles Davis's house, and him and Jimmy were in the bedroom, and Miles was on the electric piano, and Jimmy was on a guitar with a small amp. And Miles was yelling at him, "Don't you know an augmented 13? Damn it!" Okay, you know what I mean? They were like going at it, and Jimmy just had his head down, man. But that's the way Miles was teaching him. So he was really trying to get himself more together before he died on the instrument.
So other than Miles Davis musically, where else is he pulling those lessons from? I mean, I pull my lessons from the guy that's below me right now. Yeah, no, seriously, dude. I mean, you know what? Okay, I was influenced. My hero has always been Paul McCartney, not the Beatles, but Paul McCartney. He's a singer-songwriter. I think he wrote some great songs. Some of them are like, listen what the man said, whatever. And that got me, that inspired
How did
me. I'm not going to sing it right now, but that inspired me to pick up the guitar. The problem is during the Christmas, I didn't get I got a Spanish guitar, classical guitar, and nothing sounded the right way. So then I had to wait a bunch of years later when I was in art and design in high school, and I spent money on a $99 Hundo, whose action was like this big. I think it was made by Nazis. My fingers were bleeding, but that gave me, and then, you'd play some songs. So I started really by learning Horse with No Name, America, right? Mm-hmm. And then from there, but I can hear lead in my head. He can play it. Dave can play it. You sure as hell can play it. I've seen you play on, and it's just like, where else did he pull, lessons from, or whatever, those I don't know what they would call, their teachers, the OGs that, telling them like
inspiration.
Inspiration.
He was a sponge from everybody. You know what I mean? He was a sponge. But you mentioned Paul McCartney. Him and John were Jimmy's best friends until Jimmy's death. there you can go online now and you can Google the telegram he sent to Paul McCartney. That I'm paraphrasing, but it says, we're putting together a group with Miles Davis and Tony Williams on drums, and we'd like you to play bass. Think about what I just said.
No, I got it. Really, yeah.
So basically, he was going in that direction. Now, Paul didn't get the telegram. One of his assistants wrote back that Paul's on vacation or something like that, but Paul never received it.
Oh my God! Jimi Hendrix's contact. Paul's on vacation. Send him the freaking message.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. But also too, Jimmy was also hanging around Sly Stone, as well as Miles Davis at one time. For about a good 4 or 5 months, they were hanging together. Now, imagine them three partying together. Okay, so I say that to say that those two, Sly Stone and Jimi Hendrix, were supposed to be on the most prolific jazz album ever, BLleu. They were supposed to be on that album. And I don't know what happened with Sly, but we all know what happened with Jimmy because Miles talks about it in his bio. Miles thought that Jimmy was messing with his wife, his younger wife, Betty Davis, who introduced Hendrix to Miles. So he pulled Jimmy off of the roster on that album and got John McLaughlin instead.
Well, you got to protect what's yours, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, but the point is, he was a sponge. He was learning from everybody. He get together. He wanted to start a group with Stevie Winwood. He loved the fact that Stevie was a brilliant keyboardist as well as a guitar player. He wanted to start a group with Keith Emerson. He was like, yeah, man. I mean, he was picking up from everybody. So yeah, no telling what he would have been doing today.
All right. So 2 questions. First and foremost, did Jimmy pitch one in with Miles Davis's wife?
I say yes, but she denies it flatly. But knowing how
that's what they do. Okay.
Yeah, but knowing how the scene was back then, it was a free love thingy. You know what I mean?
All right. So it wasn't a technical pitch. All right. Hey, that's cool. I forgot my second question.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, I listen to a couple. I always listen to rock music, rock history here and there. You're bored. I mean, we didn't have these computers growing up. We actually had to do research, and you hear hearsay. But there was Hendrix was playing in London someplace, and I remember Clapton was there, and all these guys. You got to come down and see this guy. You got to come down and see this guy. And he met, all the bigwigs there, of course, McCartney, Lennon, they're all there in this room back, Clapton, whatever. And Jimmy just said to, hey, Eric, why don't you come up here and play this one? And he just didn't, it's just like, that's Jimi Hendrix. It was just as much as you went down and you're hanging out at Miles Davis's house with a party with all these guys. It seemed like what a perfect brew or spiritual, force around everybody that no one cared that Miles Davis was Miles Davis. They're like, yeah, everybody's really cool. How does that carry into some of the music that he's made, though?
Some of the music that who made?
Well, Jimmy made. I mean, did he channel that in? Did he just listen to, his covers are great. Okay, but some of his other stuff, like Little Wing, like you do Little Wing and Dave, I mean, there's a couple others where it's just, he's got to be pulling this from, there's something there.
Yes, but as did most of the musicians of that time. Sure, they were all pulling in from something, I say something higher. And certainly Jimmy was at the forefront. I mean, look how different the Electric Ladyland album is from the first 2 albums. And that's because of a lot of different influences that he was surrounding himself with. And I'd also like to say, too, that I was in Jimmy's fan club. I hung around him often. But even though I consider myself the 3rd protege of Jimi Hendrix, he had 2 other proteges. Jimmy never knew my name. You know what I mean? We were young kids, 15 to 16, hanging around him. He would acknowledge us. He acknowledged his fan club big time. I mean, he didn't diss us at all. We can go just about anywhere he was, but he did not know my name. Like, hey, Blue, man. Yeah, it wasn't like that. It was like, oh, it's those kids. Okay, yeah, let them in. That kind of a thing, you know.
Yeah.
But
I mean, that's still cool.
yeah, I mean, yeah, but and it also too, it wasn't until maybe close to a year before he died that he was my favorite guitar player. I really was into people like Beck. I still love Beck to this day, man. I was into cats like Johnny Winter. I saw Johnny Winter and Hendrix go at it at the scene a couple of times, and I believe Johnny Winter whipped his butt so much that Jimmy stopped jamming with guitar with Winter. So the future jams, after about the two that I saw, Jimmy was playing bass. He wouldn't play guitar with Winter was on fire back then.
Well,
funny you mentioned Johnny.
Yeah, hold on. You got to hear this. This is one of my favorite things in the world about this man right here. Tell him you're Johnny Winter.
Moons ago.
This is great.
On the road with my cousin's band, and we used to open up for a lot of people. And long story short, we ended up doing a lot of dates with Johnny Winter and his guitar tech Hyatt or Hi-Fi. Brian knows. Was a good friend of mine, and I used to, like have to run that SIR, pick up an amp, bring it to get repaired, when those guys were out of town. And one of the things that I loved about Johnny is he spoke about himself in the third person.
Uh-huh. Now, how long ago was this when you opened for him?
Oh, late 80s, early 90s.
So he was still on fire then, yeah.
Oh, he without a doubt, and he was temperamental, and if you called him Bunny Eyes, he would go fucking batshit. And he would be like, Johnny don't like people calling him Bunny Eyes, and he's talking about himself in the third person.
Oh wow!
It was like I was, I don't know, 20, 19, 21, those ages. And I was just like, dude, this is just hysterical. But man, he would pick up a guitar and rip your fucking head off. Excuse my language.
You know, I actually I had a FM radio show for 12 years, and it was very popular. I interviewed like so many incredible people. Some of them are my friends, and I interviewed Johnny. And this was about a year or so before he died. And at first, he was just answering questions like, yeah, nah. Until I mentioned the fact that I actually saw him jam with Jimmy at the scene, the whole interview changed. And I interviewed his brother, Edgar. Totally opposite. You can shut this guy up. But it was all knowledge, musical knowledge from Edgar. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, and both of them, were incredible. Oh, well, Edgar's still alive, I believe.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. Still incredible.
But,
yes.
he was playing with Rick Derringer. They had some great shit there, too.
Yeah.
But it's just great that, and I understand what you're saying. Like, I really do think Jimmy was a great guitar player and very influential on a lot of people. But Jeff Beck, best guitar player, in my personal opinion, in the rock, whatever, you can't beat that guy.
Yeah. I'm the same way with a lot of people, but hanging around real musicians, especially jazz musicians, there's no best, or everybody's good for what they do, man. And you give them the respect of what you may have a preference on what you like, but certainly nobody's better. Listen, man, I saw Jimmy hang around Sun Ra. You know who Sun Ra is?
It's a while. I know
A little bit.
Okay.
I saw him or something related to that. Met a long time ago. My brother took me to show something, and he was there.
So tell us who he is.
Sun Ra is influential. Hate to put him in the jazz, but a jazz keyboard player who revolutionized electric music. He's into sound. He's responsible for the the complete turning around of very heavy people like John Coltrane. I can just go down to Pharoah Sanders. You just go down the list of, he would have conversations with these people and just change their whole musical direction. And he met with Jimmy twice, is my point. And he met with Jimmy the first time was just before the Electric Ladyland album, which I believe is why that album is so different from Axis and All You Experienced. It's just totally space age. It's the only way I can describe it. And but so, you know, he hung around other jazz musicians. He jammed with Tony Williams, which didn't come out well. He jammed with Larry Young, very influential jazz musicians back then, man. So yeah, he was going all over the place, man. I call him one of the first, what I call fusionaires.
That's a good term for him.
I like that term. So I have to be honest with you. You're the first person I've met. Well, I guess besides you're the first person I've realized that knew Jimi Hendrix on this level. So I have some questions.
Go for him.
When you hear, like, the story that I heard years ago was that he once his guitar was out of tune, and he just said, "Can Eric Clapton tune the guitar?" Have you heard that story?
Yeah.
Okay. Truth? Was it like, "Hey, can you come up here and play with us?" And him being caring and loving? Or was that just arrogance?
You know, I have no idea because I wasn't there, but let me tell you something. I often get over the years, oh, Jimmy said blah, 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 blah. And I heard Jimmy, and I always say, yeah, what was his state of mind back then? What was he high? What did you do when you were high? What are some of the things that came out of your mouth? When you used to, same here. So you have to be careful. You have to be very discerning with what this guy said. You know what I mean? One thing that I do cling to that he said coming out the box when he finally got his backing from Chaz and Mike Jeffries and was starting on his rise to the top, out the box, he says, we play loud so we can awaken sleeping people because there's so many sleeping people. That right there was an indication of where he was going spiritually, which later he found. Unfortunately, I shouldn't say unfortunately because we don't know, but before he died, he finally found his path. But that kind of gives you an idea of where his head was at. But of course, the guy was constantly partying, and a lot of the times he did drugs was to get away from the troubles that he was going through. And what I mean by troubles is the Jimi Hendrix that I recreate with Kiss the Sky is the Jimi Hendrix at Monterey energy. When he was never able to match that energy again in any of his concerts. That, because he had to prove himself, so that concert really counted. That's the energy I focus on and I bring to every part of the show that I do with Hendrix. But the thing is, about maybe, I would say about 2 years into his stardom, he started to realize and things started to go downhill. The drama started to come because of his wicked management. Mike Jeffries, which, you read the stuff, we all know what this guy was about. But there was a lot of shenanigans and nefarious things going on. And the way that Jimmy would deal with it was with drugs or whatever until before he died, he was starting to wean himself out of hard drugs and just maybe smoke and things like that. So there was a lot of things going with this Jimi Hendrix, man.
Yeah, Jimmy, when Dave was just talking about the tuning earlier, he said something about guitars. You just demonstrated several examples of your encounters with Jimmy, as well as what you've learned along the way. When people see your shows, you've recreated them into as emphasizing all these meticulous details. Can you tell us a little bit more about how much scholarship and preparation you've put into recreating, you just look at, one song, let alone an entire concert?
Yeah, I can. Before I do, there's something that David said earlier, and Dave, I think you'd be interested in knowing. Jimmy was hanging around Quincy Jones, and Quincy told him about Berkeley. So Jimmy was one of the days he was sitting on the steps of performing arts. We got him to come in and speak to a small assembly, very small assembly, and he told us he was really fired up about this college that focused on a jazz curriculum instead of the classic, Juilliard he was familiar with, right. But he was like so fired up. So me and about 2 other people from the school auditioned for Berkeley, and I was the only one who made it. But it was on the suggestion of Hendrix that I went. And But basically, to answer your question, Mark, from about 2016, I hooked up with this producer named Mike Gotch, and we had the same vision of presenting Hendrix the way he's supposed to be presented. Meaning, if you guys saw Beatlemania, you guys remember that on Broadway? Mm-hmm. You were taken through a time capsule of the Beatles from the very beginning until they broke up. That's what we do with Hendrix. It's like a Broadway play. We do even when he was in England. We do that. And then we do Monterey Pop. We do the Fillmore years. We do Band of Gypsies. We do Woodstock. We do Rainbow Bridge and the Final Cry of Love tour. And we do this all in era costumes, era equipment, different sidemen for each of these shows. So it's like you're seeing these Hendrix shows. That's what we produce in a Broadway play type thing. We have videos in between while I'm changing clothes to set you up for what's coming next. We licensed the Joshua Light show that was used at the Fillmore. He's a friend of ours, and Joshua White. We licensed his light show to give you that total effect of being back there at that time. Now,
the gel lights? Are those the gel lights? The gel
yes, you. I'm sure you remember that. Sure, yeah.
The first time, well, I've seen it on film, but I've never. The only time I saw it live, I was at the Allman Brothers at the right there at the Beacon Theater, and that was the first 1 year, 20 years ago, whatever it was, and they were using the gels, and it was just like, hey, folks, I was born in the 60s, but now you realize like this is what it was like.
Sure, yeah.
Pretty cool that you're getting authentic with the costumes. Because the costumes are out of control. I mean, it's just amazing what you do with this stuff. But I'll let you continue. We have some videos, and we'll play some of that as well.
I keep on thinking I would love to see the videos. And by the way, you changed my whole view of Hendrix. The whole thing where you're like, what kind of state of mind was he in? That makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
You have to be.
All of a sudden, he becomes human, and you start to.
There you go.
You really have a way of bringing the man. This legend, because when he passed, I was 5 years old, and then you grow up and the legend gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And now I too get, people like, oh, who's the best? Is Jimi Hendrix the best? And it's like, and I say this with Stevie Ray Vaughan. Stevie Ray Vaughan is the best Stevie Ray Vaughan ever.
Exactly. Yeah.
And there is no better Stevie Ray, and it is amazing. And I remember seeing Stevie Ray Vaughan in '88 or '89 with Joe Satriani opening up, and everything that Satriani did, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, I think I get it. And then Stevie Ray Vaughan came on, and like literally, I didn't pick up a guitar for 2 weeks because it changed everything that I knew. And I'm sure Hendrix was the same way, but the legend keeps growing. But Hendrix is up there too. I mean. So I get
it's all about influence, right, Dave? And Jimmy, it's about influence. It's about if something comes in and it changes your life. They have it with Hendrix. They have it with Eddie Van Halen. They have it with Stevie Ray Vaughan. They have it with even Dimebag Darrell for some people. These things, this is why the legend goes and it blows up. But I love the fact that you got more out of this because this is the spirituality portion of why It happened. You know what? You got to be influenced, and money is an influence. But when you're spiritually influenced into doing shit, nothing stops you.
Yeah.
You know? Even that man, he passed away. Yeah, when we were like 5. Dave's older than me.
Not really.
5, yeah.
Not really.
But the whole thing is, it's like that heart, that soul, that energy, that I guess whatever the message is, that lives on. That's going to live on forever, ever. And
Oh yeah,
bringing it back, and and what I love about this is one of the reasons why I want you on here is younger people today. I don't want to sound like the old guy.
You are.
Get it. There's no heart and soul in any of the freaking music out there. Very, very few people have that. It's all pre-programmed crap, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the Grammys and oh my God, I thought I wanted to throw a brick through a TV set, and it's just, no one's going to be like Jimi Hendrix. And if you miss them, this is the man that brings them to life. When you said Beatlemania, I smiled when I heard it on another show that you guys were on, because one of my brother's best friends, who is from Queens, Brad Widelock, his older brother, I think it was named Mark, who's now a judge in California. He was the guy that was in the band, the Beatlemania. He was the one running it. And what was really cool is, and I thought this was cool, Brad went to see Bob Marley perform, and his person that escorting him was Priscilla Presley and his brother. I love this fact, right? This is the history of it. It's like having like someone giving you, Jimmy, you're doing a great job. This is his guitar. I think that would be like, so listen, folks, get out there, buy him a Jimi Hendrix guitar and just give it to Jimmy as a good totem. But continue on, Dave.
Well, just buy a good guitar, period. I mean, some people think, oh, if I buy the guitar Jimmy had, I'll play like Jimmy, things like that. Let me tell you something. You mentioned Marley. That's Jimy Bleu, is a combination of Bob Marley and Jimi Hendrix. And because those two specifically took esoteric music and made it available to the masses. That's a very important point, because before these two guys, what happened is jazz musicians used to shun pop musicians and vice versa. Pop musicians didn't want to, get serious about the instrument like jazz musicians, and it was too esoteric. And what Jimmy was doing, I call it rock ceremonial music. It was ceremonial. And basically Bob Marley took the ceremonial reggae beat from the hills of Jamaica, man. You know what I mean? That Naya Bingy reggae beat, and he took it and made it available to the masses. And look at the influence he still has, man. So that's basically what I'm all about. That's totally what I'm about, man.
So when we get into, because I see the Egyptian goddess, I've got her name behind you, and when he started out, he wasn't doing the drugs. He was, hanging out. I think, was he in Duke Ellington? I know he was in another orchestra. Was it Duke Ellington? There's a couple of images of him, and he's
Little Richard.
Little Rich, was he with Little Richard's back?
Yeah, it was a top act.
Yeah.
Or Duke Ellington.
Well, no, because I've seen it. I remember seeing it. He's standing there in like the tuxedo. You got Duke in front doing whatever it was, and then you have his whole orchestra in the back. I saw him in that orchestra. It was pointed out, unless it's one of those Mandela effects. But I remember I was looking for it today to go find it, because that blew me away. That this is where
Well, he had he cut his teeth in many different, as a sideman, in many different bands. I went on tour with his bass player Billy Cox, and Billy, in the early years, Billy used to get Jimmy to accompany him on a lot of backing up a lot of these stars, the Supremes, Sam and Dave. I mean, go down the list, the Crystals. You go down the list of the people they backed up. You know what I mean? So, and that's how he cut his teeth. So yeah, that's all over YouTube. You could see him backing up different people on YouTube. And it wasn't until he started playing by himself in a village, and he had a girlfriend who was actually the girlfriend of Keith Richards as well. But he was living with her. Jimmy was living with her, and she was bringing all of her she was a big model at that time. She was bringing all of her musical contacts, all of these big wigs, to see Jimmy play at the Cafe Wa in the village. And I don't see nothing. I don't know what you're bringing me down here for. Yeah, he's all right. You know what I mean? And it wasn't until she brought Chas Chandler down, and Chas saw the potential. And that's how the whole thing started. But if it wasn't for that woman, Linda Keith, because she not only brought those contacts down, she groomed Jimmy, meaning she got him to sing more. He used to sing a little, but she got him to sing more and be out front more, rather than staying in the back playing guitar. She used to dress him. She used to say, here, put this shirt on. Nah, that don't look good. Here, wear the scarf around there. You know what I mean? She really got him ready and presentable so that when she brought these people down, that they would see something, and it finally worked with Chas Chandler.
Well, okay, so you have that. He's getting out of cutting his teeth. He's starting to do his own thing. Where do the drugs come in? And I'm not talking just about weed or whatever. And I know there's a time period. We're talking about the 60s, all that hippies and whatever. Was it just a natural progression into it? Because I know he's connected to Timothy Leary.
Yes.
Was that the main thing? Like, hey, everybody's smoking weed, everybody's drinking and smoking weed. Leary was tune in, tune out, drop out, or something like that. Whatever his saying was with LSD. Is that what got him really hooked on the old rumor he put like 6 tabs of acid in his bandana and just went on and was baked the whole time?
He was doing LSD before he ran into Larry. Larry was just before he died. But what's important about that hookup is that Timothy Leary got him involved with the spiritual group, a foundation in Manhattan called the Gurdjieff Foundation. It's called the Fourth Way Path. You can Google that. He actually, it was more Ralph Mesger is Timothy Leary's partner. He was more involved with that than Timothy was. Timothy was involved, but Ralph was totally involved with that and hooked Jimmy up with that whole hookup to get Jimmy involved with that. So that's where the Leary thing was so important, and that's what I bring out in my lectures, why it was so important. Because when you think of Timothy Leary today, everybody thinks of him as this wacko, and he at least did that for Jimmy, wacko or not. He got Jimmy on a spiritual path. There was also another, I mentioned Sun Ra earlier. It was Sun Ra, Rasan Kirk. You guys know who that is?
That sounds familiar, but
famous sax player, used to play 3 saxes at one time, jazz musician. He's another one who got him and Sun Ra got Jimmy involved with the ancient Egyptian teachings. Now, a lot of people are not familiar with that. If we were to sit here and talk about ancient India and also other ancient cultures having an esoteric teaching, fine. But as soon as you say ancient Egyptian, they're like, you know what I mean? But yes, there was an indigenous, from indigenous people of that area of the Nile Valley, there was a teaching that was just as heavy as the ancient India or whatever. And Jimmy got involved with that. And he got involved with it so much that he turned 2 of his sidemen onto those teachings. One of those sidemen is still alive. And what happened is he turned these guys on so much that they changed their name to ancient Egyptian names. They were twins. If you watch the Jimi Hendrix documentaries, especially the one that came out in '73, you can see these twins. They're sitting on a park bench talking about Hendrix. One of them is still alive. His name is Tahaka. And Tahaka, they're called the Aleem brothers, but his name is Tahaka Aleem. Tahaka is an ancient indigenous name. So they were struck so much by what they got turned on to by Jimmy that they not only got into the teachings, but they changed their names as well.
It's interesting because we had one of my friends did a presentation, the first episode I did on the pyramids, pretty much, and they weren't built by the Egyptians. They were built by an ancient group, and there's a lot about the ancient teachings that you're talking about, and it's really, really deep, and it gets into abilities and your spirituality, vibration, frequency, resonance, and when you get it, it's almost like a religious experience, but when you get it, you get it. So them changing their names is really, really interesting. You mentioned also at one point, I've seen a couple of interviews, Carlos Santana, who almost changes his name, or he did change his name at one point. Another decent guitar player, very spiritual, that kind of spiritual path. And so the Leary and the LSD leads them to this Egyptian ideology, or how much of that is influenced in the songs he produced after that?
Oh, it would total influence, just like it would do anything else. But actually, going back to what you said about Santana, another one of my heroes, he did change his name, and that was because he hooked up with Alice Coltrane. Do you know who she is? You know who John Coltrane is, right?
Yeah, that's his wife, right? Or
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And she became, after John's death, she got into the Hindu teachings, and she actually became a guru. She started an ashram in California, which was still active until the early 2000s. It was a fire. But even after her death in the 90s, it was still went on because she was considered a guru. Anyway, she reached out to pop musicians in the 60s after her husband died. Jimmy was one of the first musicians she reached out to, but she kept getting the runaround from his management. She couldn't never speak to him. So she reached out to Carlos Santana, and they did an album together, and Carlos was so affected by her, he changed his name to Davidip. And that album is fantastic. You should pick it up. Alice Coltrane, Carlos Santana's got Pharoah Sanders on it. I mean, it's an amazing album. It's no joke.
Illuminations?
Yes, or something like that. Yes.
Illuminations. Nice. It's, the influence of, this is what I was talking about when we were talking about before, because you also do Reverend Al Green. And before he became a reverend, but he was Al Green, No,
he was a reverend for a long time, and he still is. Yeah. No.
Well, it's just there's something a higher power for a lot of these people. There's a higher power, and a good higher power and influence to bring these people out and bring this music out. I still there's certain songs that Little Wing is just one of them. I mean, one of my favorite Hendrix songs in the world is Fire, and just seeing what the drummer on that is just off the chart. And if you look at his kit, it's not that big kit that everybody has. I got 16 bass drums, and dude, it's a tom, it's a bass, and it's what Hendrix did with so little to make such a huge sound. Unbelievable.
Yes. And a lot of it had to do with his producer, who's not given the credit that is due, Chas Chandler, who was able to take that the esoteric nature as well as the sci-fi nature of Jimmy and craft 3-minute gems and present that to the masses. Listen to Manic Depression. That's straight out jazz. That's, what I mean? Three-quarter jazz. And it's got a vocal on it, and it's pushed to the masses. Brilliant. Very brilliant.
Yeah, I listen to Dave play it sometimes when he calls. Hey, what's up? And I hear do 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 do. Like, oh, we're gonna do manic depression right now. Yeah, I was paying attention to certain things with Hendrix because what people don't understand is, now it's a lot different because of the computers, AI, and whatever. It was really hard for people to dial in his sound, like really dial it in. How did you? Yes, you went and you studied, but did you know exactly? Like, are you set up when you do your shows so that you have the same amps, same time frame? Some of them are super expensive. How did you dial in him to get that Hendrix sound?
Well, most of the sound comes from his touch, but I do have what he used, the pedals that he used and things like that. I have all of that. I have the Marshalls that he used and things, but a lot of it is the touch. And like I said, Jimmy played with body movement. The Hendrix I concentrate on is early Hendrix, before the BS started happening with his management and in his life. When he was on fire, he was still proving himself to the world, even though he had made it. That's the Hendrix I concentrated on. He was playing more with his body. The sounds was delivered mainly by the use of his body while he's playing. This is why I said nobody plays like that today. If you watch the guitar players today, you'll see them play, maybe move a little bit. Steve Vai goes a little bit further, with what he does. But Hendrix, oh my God! I mean, watch that Monterey footage, and you'll get an idea what I mean. Listen to him do Like a Rolling Stone, which is a master class for playing lead and rhythm together from one guitar player. That's a master class. Listen to what he's doing and watch how he's moving while he's doing it. Very important song.
Right. I mean, I would, doing these shows, I'd love to show some video and, whatever, but the potential to get shut down because families are just either they're not making enough money and there's a lot of people making killings, or they just, for some reason, we were having a conversation about this before, his family's not happy about any of this stuff. I don't know why. You're living a life because this man did what he did.
You're also shedding light on him and spreading his legacy, which I think is valuable. I mean, why would you shut that down?
Right. Why wouldn't you want someone who's doing a hell
celebrating the life? Yes.
And then bringing younger crowd into celebrating it. It's tough. I mean, I have your stuff, so I can kind of show it because as one of I was taking the Metro North into work one day, my next door neighbor was there, and his claim to fame is, all those perfume guys you see in the city, and kind of like Obsession, it's Obsession or the high end, the sense. Well, when they get arrested, he's their lawyer. And how he gets them up all the time is I was laughing on the train. It was, you
I didn't see that coming.
And I said, how the hell do you get away with that? He goes, oh, it's very simple. I just tell the judge that it's their interpretation of Obsession. So now Jimmy is his interpretation of what it would be like at Monterey, at Woodstock, at a Jimi Hendrix concert. And then they can't do anything at that point.
Well, that's why what we do is so important. The show is called Kiss the Sky, and it's very important. Matter of fact, you can get more information, go to kisstheskytribute.com, and you can get all the information, the videos, and everything. But it's very important because a lot of people didn't get a chance to see Jimmy. He was only around really 4 years, and only thing that they see is maybe the tour that comes around that the family sponsors and things like that, which is not. It's just a lot of guitar players playing Hendrix songs, which is fine. Listen, it's fine. I'm not putting that down. What I'm saying, people need to see in their face with no gimmicks how this guy did it. We show them this is how Jimmy did it. Okay, and basically that's what they come away with is, okay, I thought I saw Hendrix, or I got an idea more what Hendrix is about. He was very important, and the whole world should know more about it.
Well, you know what? We have your YouTube. I did a search for your YouTube, and I'm going to present it right now, just so people can kind of see it, right? So I'm going to hide that. But one of the other ones is, I mean, we can do Kiss the Sky tribute right there, and we'll hit it and see if it pops up and see if everybody can get to see it. Pause it right there, only because I don't know what's going to happen with my YouTube algorithm when they're going to go, you're playing Jimi Hendrix, and all of a sudden, they give you stuff. But I love the fact that you're the movement of your, how you're right. The movements that you were making, I mean, like literally, I've seen that. I've seen the video of that. I've seen him playing that exactly like you're doing it. And I didn't notice, like, it's almost, I don't know, it's almost like a ritual. It's incredible what you were saying right there, because now I have a totally different perspective on Jimi Hendrix. Now I'm going to be watching Jimmy for the next month. Jimmy. Go ahead.
First of all, that was
Woodstock.
awesome.
Is Woodstock performance?
Yes, that was our Woodstock recreation. That's really old too. We've since we've actually got the replica jacket now that was made by a Native American brother, and it's the exact replica of the jacket. We've also do Woodstock gigs with his remaining sidemen, Billy Cox, Juma Sultan, and Jerry Velez. So sometimes they perform with us. So this thing is all out. This, that's all I can say. It's all out there.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave. You were saying something, and
I literally, I'm sitting here like looking through my glasses and they're progressive, so like I'm too close and everything is. And I thought I was watching a Hendrix clip we were like halfway through it, and I'm like, wait. I mean, the tone, the sound, the movement, everything was like brilliant. And you're right.
Playing
He
with
becomes
one
one
hand.
with the instrument, and you don't see that. Steve
Well, I
Vai does do that.
Yeah, I mean, like I watch people how they play the guitar, and a lot of them, they go, some always going over. I see him do it. I've seen, Stevie Ray Vaughan. Hendrix hands were supposedly like, ginormous, and the way he gripped it. That is really important. I like when you were getting some of the notes, you were just doing it with your thumb. It was just mind blowing.
Yeah, but what happened is, see, I play the strings. I'm left-handed. I play the strings upside down, but I play with the small E on the top. Jimmy played both ways, but he preferred with the fat E on the top. The standard way. It was just flip left-handed. I didn't do that. I basically turned the guitar upside down and played it. So when Jimmy saw that, he got me to use my thumb more to really, play the top, the E and the B string, to play the top chords and do little things with that, instead of how he did it he would use the thumb to play the bass notes mainly. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm still blown away by it.
So, question: when he, everybody knows that he took a righty guitar and flipped it, but was it flipped, or did he string it like a normal guitar?
He strung it like a normal guitar, but he played both ways. If you go to YouTube, you could see a video of him backstage at a Rolling Stones concert, and he grabs Mick Taylor, hands him a guitar, and he takes the guitar and he's playing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So he could do both.
He could do both. Not only that, he could play this way and then take the guitar and play it that way as well, like a right-handed.
Dexterous on the guitar. That is insane.
I know, it's totally insane.
Because I know, like, when I've worked with like lefties and like I have to flip it, and I'm just like, everything's upside down, and I'm like, here. Yeah. It wow. Yeah, it was totally one with the instrument, which is the pinnacle.
But like I said, he had limitations as a player, man. Jazz players know what classical players know what I'm talking about. He was very limited, but he was addressing that limitation before he died. He realized that. He was hanging around cats who could play rings around him, and he admired that. He's, oh man, what is that? What you doing? You know what I mean? And he was learning from them like crazy.
So how extensive in the beginning was his knowledge of theory?
What knowledge?
I'd love to hear that.
No knowledge. He was a totally an ear player, man, but playing behind all of those acts that Brian was talking about earlier, we were talking about that. Playing behind all those people, his ear got sharpened, and the basic theory came into play. You know what I mean? But he was learning he couldn't read enough, but he was learning how to do that from Miles. Miles was coaching him. Larry Coryell was coaching him. There were quite a few people helping this guy get better on the instrument, become more better with his craft, even his vocals. A lot of people don't realize that Buddy Miles, you know who Buddy Miles is?
Oh yeah, I've seen Buddy a couple times.
Okay. Now, Buddy Miles is an excellent singer. Buddy Miles was vocal coaching him. Buddy Miles is playing the demos for the first 3 albums, drums. He's playing when you get signed to a major label, you do demos before you do your record. You do demos, present it to the people, and say, yeah, okay, you can go ahead and record that. And Buddy Miles was playing drums. If you go to YouTube, you can hear a couple of those demos that Buddy Miles is playing. One of them is Little Miss Lover. You can hear Buddy Miles playing the demo, and then you can hear Mitch. Go to the record and hear Mitch the way Mitch played it. Well, Buddy, a lot of people don't know. Well, Buddy even says, he played on the demos, but a lot of people don't know that Buddy was vocal coaching him. He was he
sang.
Yeah, a lot of those songs, like let's go to the early songs. Huh?
No, I'm just saying Black Magic Woman. Just listen to Black Magic Woman.
No, I'm talking about the Hendrix song, the early Hendrix songs. Especially the ballads.
Right.
One Rainy Wish. Golden rose, the color of the dream I had. Right, Jimmy. If the way that happened first was golden rose, the color of the dream, and Buddy would be no, he would put the melody into it. Golden rose, color of the dream I had. You know what I mean? Things like that. If Buddy Miles is responsible, but he's not given the credit for vocal coaching Jimmy. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, it's really interesting, the influences. I heard I was one of my favorite guitarists actually is Billy F. Gibbons.
Oh yeah.
Really good guitarist. And I was watching something where Billy used to go out and do shows with Hendrix. Billy's band used to open for Hendrix.
Yes. And
at one point in time, and he says he heard it from 3 other people, but he heard it himself. One of Hendrix's favorite guitar players was Billy Gibbons.
Yeah, but again, you have to be careful.
Right. Yeah. He was on where he was and whatever. But what I loved about the whole thing was the reason why him and Billy Gibbons really got along was when Billy would open for him, he'd play Jimmy's songs. Jimmy would come to the stage and look at him like, this guy's crazy.
Wow, I haven't heard that one. Wow.
Yeah, he would literally play Hendrix songs, and because he said we didn't have that many songs, so we did 2 covers of Hendrix songs. And Jimmy came out and goes, "You got to have a big pair," and they just became really good friends. And again, another influence, but not very known, And Billy Gibbons confirmed it. He was I was trying to get that also, but I didn't want to go too crazy with, all that stuff. But that's pretty interesting, the influence and how. And I can understand when you said Buddy Miles teaching him that. What is it? It's not a cadence. There's a delivery to it.
Yes, that's the word, delivery. Yes.
If you know Buddy Miles and you know how he does it, you can totally see it. And now again, mind blown. Now I'm gonna go back and watch, looking for Buddy Miles and whatever else in there. That's incredible.
Yeah, I remember myself and 2 other members of the fan club before the band of Gypsies played the Fillmore. They were rehearsing at this place called a Bag of Nails, and rehearsal place, and we found out that they were there, so we went to try to see them. And we were stopped at the door by Velvet Turner, who was another Hendrix protege. He used to pretend he was Jimmy's bodyguard. Said, "No, they're busy. You can't come in here." And blah 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 blah. And but the door was open, and we saw Billy. We saw Buddy showing Jimmy something vocally, and Jimmy tried to reproduce it, and Billy Cox and Buddy laughing. Because Jimmy he was trying to show him a riff or something, and Jimmy couldn't reproduce the riff, and it was funny to them, so they were laughing at that, before the door closed. But most definitely, man, Buddy Miles had such an influence, and keep in mind, Buddy Miles was one of the first multi-musicians. That was a very important. Today is common, but that was a very important concept back then. Matter of fact, Jimmy jammed with Stevie Wonder. They were at the same London TV studio, and so the people got them to play together. They played 2 songs. They played 2 Motown songs together. And Stevie played drums and Jimmy played guitar. And I always tell people in my lectures, that wasn't the important part of the meeting. The important part was that when they sat Stevie down, because they went to get the car for him, they sat him down. Jimmy came over to him, and they started talking. And Stevie told Jimmy, "Man, I'm getting ready to do this album while playing all the instruments, man," and blah, 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 blah. That blew Jimmy's mind for the rest of his life. So later on in Jimmy's career, you'll see pictures of him going into Manny's, or hear stories of him going into Manny's and buying all of these instruments, even horns. Jimmy was starting to get into that. He was already playing bass on those albums, his first 3 albums. A lot of that is not Noel. Matter of fact, most of it is not Noel playing bass. That's Jimmy's bass lines. So it was just a matter of him learning drums and keyboards to really play everything, because he got that idea from Stevie Wonder.
That is incredible.
So, Burning the Midnight Lamp would have Stevie Wonder influence.
Yeah, you're talking about the keyboard influence. Yeah, could be. I can't verify that. Could be.
But you know, as you know, we've gone through the show tonight. You know, most the viewers probably think of the hard rock or the first couple CDs, but with all the jazz you've referenced tonight, including Miles Davis and Stevie, Larry, is that an explanation for why the Electric Ladyland is so different from the first two CDs?
The first two albums, yes, but not just that. Like I said earlier, Sun Ra. Keep in mind, everybody, if you research this guy, everybody he spoke to changed their musical direction the next day. This is what I'm saying. After speaking to this guy, now Dave, you know, because you're a musician, you know what that's like. To go sit at a meeting with somebody and the conversation is so deep that you can't wait to get home, because now you got a whole new mathematics of playing, a whole new way of new concepts in your head. That's what happened to Coltrane. Just go down the list with this guy after they spoke to Sun Ra. That's how prolific he was. So, of course, he gets with Jimmy, and next thing you know, here comes Electric Ladyland. From that album, listen to 1983, A Merman I Shall Turn to Be. Listen to what he does with the studio. He's the first musician to use the studio as an instrument. Musicians wasn't doing that. Okay. They would go in the studio, lay their stuff down. Jimmy was taking the studio and using it as an actual musical instrument. Those concepts come from Sun Ra, I'm telling you.
That's wild. That's wild stuff. Yeah, now I'm making notes because I'm inspired. Like, I've got that feeling. It's like, all right, so when we get off, if it's not after, say, 10 o'clock, I could turn on the amps, because now I'm inspired. So
send money for Dave's eviction notices right now.
I haven't had a problem with a neighbor in probably 30 years, but yeah, there might have been some.
Well, send all the complaints to Mark.
Yeah, Mark will
I'm used to them anyways.
So, all right, question. I'm not going to say what's the best, what's this, what's that, because I don't believe in those questions. But first, there's a handful of songs, and I think I mentioned this to Brian. There's like a handful of songs that the first time you hear it, that first note, the hair on the back of your neck goes up. And you're like, holy shit, what is that? And for kids that are younger, it's usually like, oh, the first time I heard Welcome to the Jungle, and you hear that first note, and you're like, what the fuck is that? But for me, it was Purple Haze. Like, the first note, you're just like, what is that? So let me ask you. And by the way, I can't, like, Purple Haze, I can't tell you the last time I've listened to the song and been like, wow, it's my favorite song. Because it's not. But it made such an impact. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So question.
Yeah.
You what is one of your favorites? Or what's the one song that had that impact? Or like what Hendrix song or album, not a happy spot, but that emotional spot?
Well, when people ask me what they should get, I always say get the first three albums and you'll be straight. Really, some people go, oh well, what about Band of Gypsies? I said, he didn't have time to develop that sound. So I mean, you can get it if you want, but the first three albums is Jimi Hendrix to me. And to answer your question, I get that asked a lot, and of course, like you said, you can't say favorite, but I tell people, put on headphones and listen to Voodoo Child Slight Return. That is rock ritual. That's ceremonial rock music. Okay, that's at its best. And that was really a jam because they were being filmed by a TV station or something, and they finished, and the guy said, "Hey, can you do one more?" So I guess, Jimmy went into that, and come to find out that's his best version. He wasn't happy with the mastering and the mixing of that once it came out, but I happen to think that, okay, it is inspiring with what Eddie and them did with the mixing of it, and especially the mastering. But listen to that. I mean, take it from Rolling Stone. Still to this day, that's like the #1 song. This guy's been dead over half a century. He's still the #1 guitar player, and that's the song. When they do the countdown, that's the song. I mean, that effect, that what the? You know what I mean? It just hits you, and then it just never stops until the end. All of those sounds that come out the guitar, no synthesizer.
Right.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
No sampling, no synthesizer, no DAW. That was tape.
Yeah, man.
That was tape. And it was, and yeah, production back then, it was a huge important part of the program. And a lot of the times the rec companies didn't let the artists really have any say in it. They had their guy, but imagine what could have happened if they did have better people there than what we got out of it. We have a question for you, by the way. Being in the music industry, has Jimy Bleu ever seen the Illuminati secret society type stuff?
Yeah, but I don't talk about it. You know why?
Because you don't talk about it.
No, because when they come after me, ain't nobody got my back. So no. Answer the question, no. I ain't seen nothing. I don't know nothing.
Yep.
And plus, I don't know how Jimmy died. You mentioned stuff earlier. I don't even talk about that in my lectures. I get that answer. I don't know.
Now, I don't. I have a theory, and I'll just leave it as a theory off air. It's just when people get too influential and put a wrench into the narrative that the powers that be have, it kind of gets. You got to watch yourself. That's basically the bottom line, for the most part. I know I'm not the Illuminati, but they tell me I am. So I haven't heard anything.
Yeah, the thing is, those were very dangerous times back then, and I could say that because that's on the record. I mean, you can Google that. Matter of fact, there's a good book out. Matter of fact, there's 2 books that I would recommend to people who are interested. The first book, in pertaining to what you was talking about, is The Covert War on Rock. And it's written by Alex Constantine, and he gets into the deaths of not only Hendrix, but Marley, Tupac, Biggie. This guy goes down the list of Jim Morrison, just all of these people, Brian Jones, and he documents, the nefariousness behind these deaths. And that's a good book. The other book is Jimi Hendrix, Black Legacy, A Dream Deferred by Corey Washington. Pick these books up. You'll be getting into more, especially about Hendrix, because in Corey's book, he documents, and with the research, he documents how, let me give you an example. Those albums we mentioned, the first 3 albums, were charting high on Billboard charts. Now, a lot of people you talk to and you read some of these Hendrix books, they'll tell you Hendrix had no communication with the black community. They didn't know who Hendrix was. Well, Corey dispels that myth with his research, because he shows you in the Billboard charts, those same albums were charting high on the R&B soul charts on Billboard. So that myth is dispelled. You see what I'm saying? That's just one example. It's a fantastic book. You need to pick it up.
I mean, given the time period and what was going on, the tail end of civil rights, and so, there's no way he didn't have any interaction with the black community. There's no way in hell. He had it. He probably had a ton more, but for whatever reason, when you get into this business, people like to sell certain things a certain way. They want to craft you. And then decades later, the truth comes out. Yeah, so from Bleu again, he said he thought it was interesting. Jim Morrison's father was an admiral who was in command of the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Coincidence? There's a lot of people like that. I mean, there's current talk right now because my younger brother was a pretty big Jimi Hendrix fan. I don't think he did the biographies or whatever, but I've heard this before about some of the famous people you just mentioned that they weren't taken out. They were like, I got to get out of here because otherwise they're going to take me out. And almost like a witness protection program. That's the conspiracy theory side of things.
Yeah.
Although I could have sworn I saw Elvis in a Wendy's up in Elmsford, New York. Totally different thing. But I mean, there's a lot of talk about this. There's a lot, and think about it.
Remember when we were in Africa?
Remember when we were in Africa? What happened in Africa? When the hell did you go to Africa, Mark?
No, that was supposedly where Jim was relocated to.
Oh, okay. Because that's happening now with a lot of people in Hollywood. There are people that have gone missing, and we have a lot more visuals on a lot of things going now. And all of a sudden, like I thought he was, people like, didn't he just die or look, it's weird, but you're dealing with, like you said, there are entities and whatever. I'm shutting my mouth, and I've learned to shut my mouth on certain things too because it's not worth it. It's just whatever.
Yeah, I listen. Pushback on Kiss the Sky is phenomenal. So for me to open my mouth on things like that, I'd never work.
I would never put you in a position like that whatsoever. There's no way in hell. I want him to come to Florida so I can see it.
Well, I was going to say, are you still doing the show at all, or are you still playing live?
What, Kiss the Sky?
Start with that.
Yeah, Kiss the Sky.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like I said, I'm in my 57th year. Yeah, we're still active, man. What I know coming down the pike is, let me see, we're in DC March 1st. We're doing a lot of private events. We're touring Australia in August. No, man, listen, I can't do nothing else.
Where in DC are you playing?
Huh?
Private events are
Where
good.
in DC?
At the Civic Center, Salisbury Civic Center. I think that's in Maryland. It's right on the border, the DC Maryland border, something like that.
Yeah, you know what? I might take a road trip.
And then you go over to PRS and talk to Paul Reed Smith, my favorite guitar. I'm one of the few. Dave doesn't understand why, but I don't even understand why. He's huge on Fender, like Strats and stuff. I don't like them. I'm a Paul Reed Smith kind of guy.
Okay, I mean, yeah, it's all preference, man. It might interest you to know too, especially Dave, that the touch guitar, the touch style playing.
Yeah, tapping.
Yeah, I forgot the name of the inventor of that.
Jordan?
No, the inventor of the guitar. Is a certain guitar that it just slipped my mind. But when he first made those guitars, one of them went to Jimmy, the prototypes, and another one went to Steve Howe from Yes.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah. So Jimmy was getting into that as well. I don't know how serious he was, but I do know that one of the guitars was given to him and a few other people, but those two come to mind. I forgot the guy's name who invented that whole thing, and then he had his own guitar after that as well.
I'm trying to.
Dave's learning some stuff tonight.
Dave's learning a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. Did you see, by the way, Stanley Jordan did a Hendrix tribute. Did you get a chance to see it?
Yeah, I don't talk about other Hendrix tributes. It's not fair.
Yeah, you
But,
say,
but I will say, when Stanley Jordan does Stanley Jordan,
oh my God.
he touches my heart.
Right,
You know
I
what I
agree
mean?
with you. And then
You know,
you watch him, and I'm like, why are you wearing the wig?
I ain't saying nothing, man. I don't know nothing.
Yeah, it's just like that's my bread and butter. Just leave me alone. Everybody do your own thing. But yeah, I mean, when I asked Dave to come on that night, I got like 14 texts like, look at Earth, Wind, and Fire doing Voodoo Child. look.
Mm.
Love that version.
It was good. It was good.
Oh wow! I got to listen to that. I've never heard that. Wow.
I'll text you what he texted me, and then you'll probably see him at your DC show, and then we'll all come full circle. You know,
Cool.
I'm gonna call Jimbo and make this a party.
yes. So you know he'll be down there, but it's really funny because you know you're a Queens, New York. What is it? Queens, raised in Brooklyn, like LL.
Who, Dave or me?
No, you. I know where he was raised. He's raised in the Bronx with me. So,
Oh, okay. Yeah. No, I was actually born in Brooklyn and raised in Queens,
Yeah.
and then I say I came of age in Manhattan because, like I said, when I went to performing arts, I was thrown in the middle of Times Square. So I'm a mama's boy. So imagine a conservative mama's boy getting thrown in the middle of Times Square back in the '60s when it was filthy. It was nothing like it was today.
dangerous.
It was filthy. I mean, you know, you couldn't walk down the streets without guys coming out of apartments, standing in front of apartments. Yo, chicas, man, chicas. So that's where my lunch money went.
Exactly.
I by the way, I did catch that Jimmy slept with Miles Davidson's wife and Keith Richards' girlfriend. So I'm keeping score.
Yeah, he's keeping score. It was.
You got me on that too. I'm like, wow, respectable.
I just remember. You brought back such great memories because I went to art and design,
Mm-hmm.
and I was in several different little bands or whatever. We did different things. I was in a metal band and a rock band and whatever it was. But we used to go, and whenever I forgot where it was, I think it's Astoria Studios or something like that. We would rent the studio to practice because one of my other friends, he was in a band called Idle Threat. It was more metal, and I think those guys were based out of Queens for the most part. So, but we would go to the studio where they were. It was in Queens. And the coolest thing is they had one of the Spinal Tap amps in there that went to 11 that was blown up.
Wow.
That, and then they had 75-cent 16-ounce like beer drafts. Like, you remember the old machines where the cup comes down? So everybody's
like Miller Lite or Schaefer would come down?
Whatever, it was 75 cents. And we were totally underage. And we were like, yeah, this is great. You know, so it just brought back some really, really good memories that I haven't had in forever. And I'm like, God, I want to go back to art and design. I want to go back to, you know, being a little bit more, you know, younger at that point. So so you did, hold on, James Brown, Jimi Hendrix. When did Al, because we have a few more minutes, when did Al Green get into, was that after Hendrix or during Hendrix? Like, you know, I like Al as well, and I'm going to do that. When did that take off?
Well, I've been doing that for about 17, 18 years now. And it was right after I backed him up on guitar. I did 4 dates with him. And he was kind of getting into guitar then. Now he plays a lot more guitar, but he's kind of getting into it. So he used to say he liked my stroke, the way I would stroke, especially on the ninth chords. He used to like that. And I used to like the way I used to see the women come up to the front of the stage and take their shirts off and stuff and show their titties. I used to laugh. I said, damn, that's...
Jimmy. God bless you, Jimmy.
Ain't that the coolest thing?
It is.
Yeah, that's what's up. I used to see that with the Hendrix concerts too. A lot of women. So now you see these guitar players today, and it's mostly guys at their concerts. You know, unless I'm speaking of the guitar heroes. It's like young guys, and it's almost like they're jerking off to every lick. And I'm like, that's not the audience I want. I want what I remember. Them girls up front going nuts, man, showing stuff and things like that. I'm old school, you know.
Well,
maybe
maybe the next
about 10 years ago, and he's like, you know, the problem with what I do is that it's all guys, and I'm like, yeah.
Yeah. Or yeah.
This is a problem. It's just all. It's like whatever. You know, everybody just like, oh, tap like this, and chicks, didn't dig that. But there was
Man.
something about
Yep.
years before.
I learned how to play guitar because I wanted to get more chicks.
Yeah.
And
Here.
let's I mean,
Let's be real, fellas. This is why we did
what
it.
it is,
Procreation.
Hello, I don't know,
Practicing
but
of
not
it.
a lot to work with. I needed an angle. I learned how to play guitar.
Well, the thing that made
But
Jimmy
at the end of the
different.
day, I also learned very young. In fact, my cousin told, he's like, you want to make them dance. Because if you make them dance, the chicks come out and they have fun. When the
Great
chicks
point.
have fun, you have fun. And
Yeah.
then the cycle is complete. And I'm like, there you go. My life motto.
Yeah,
Sing
that's
and
a
dance.
good point.
I was playing in this guy's one of my friends' band in high school. We played Kenny's Castaways down in the village.
Ah, sure. Yeah, I played that place. Yeah.
Kenny's is like, if they like you, then they take you up and they move you up, bitter end or whatever it is, right? So I wrote a lot of songs, and it's a lot of love songs, and it's or love based type of stuff. It's really good. It's like poppy, whatever. And he used to get pissed. He got so pissed at me, like, dude, what are you doing? We're trying to get an album, we're trying to get a deal. Everybody wanted a deal back in the 80s, right? And I go, stop, why are you writing that? Why are you singing that? I said, well, here's the problem. In order to get a record deal, you have to be able to sell something. Okay?
Mhm.
We play your music and we play your songs. Everybody goes to the bathroom and gets a drink. But when I'm up there playing and singing my song, everybody's singing it back to me.
Oh.
And let me tell you, you could attest this. Dave probably can't. Whoever, Mark does this on his OnlyFans page. But I had to throw that in there. But when I used to get nervous getting on a stage, I would drink a fifth of tequila. That was how I started. Well, whatever. I didn't need it that long. The minute everybody started, they knew my songs. They knew them. They sang them back to me. I floated back home from the village in New York to the Bronx because
You drank a fifth of tequila. That's why.
No, dude, when they know your songs and they're singing, and you can see the smiles, and he's right. The chicks were singing. Some of the guys were singing too, but the girls were like, they loved it. And I was like, oh my God, it was great. It was just nothing like
Yeah,
it.
what a feeling, right? What a feeling.
Yep. Brian, maybe you ought to change the name of your show to like Front of the Stage or something like that.
Front of the stage. No, I can't. I still.
Why don't we get women to flash?
We can do that.
Well, that was what I was referencing.
Deanna, can you help rally up some people that women that will do that? I don't want to ask other. I have 2 daughters and a wife. I can't do it.
When I do the Al Green show, I always tell a woman, I'm like, leave your man at home.
Leave them at home.
When are you doing an Al Green show? No, I'm just kidding.
Oklahoma Nana asks him if it was Dave Bunker who invented the touch guitar. He's the one he is thinking of.
No, it's another name. It's not that name doesn't sound familiar. It's somebody else. Yeah.
It's crazy, but I mean, I can't. We're getting closer towards the end of the show. We're probably about like 7 minutes. And I want to have you come back. I want to play more video. I want to show you doing your thing, but we do have the link right here. Where else can everybody here find you? Because I did put as much links that I had for you into the show description. So I wanted, everything to be kicked back to you as well. I want you to come to Florida because even though, these old people down here were once younger, and they know this, and there's some kids that are down here in a certain age group that they know Hendrix. So it could be really, really interesting. They do all these hippie festivals.
Yeah, we were in Florida a few times last year, and so yeah, we'll should be headed back there soon. You can get, the best way to get more information about not only Hendrix show, but what I do is, you're familiar with Linktree, Linktree/Jimy Bleu. Go to link. It has all of my websites, my personal website, the Hendrix website, Al Green info, fan reviews. I don't know if you guys remember, there are Mark Cuban used to have well, he still does, Access TV. Are you familiar with Access TV? You guys got
I
cable?
didn't realize that was Mark Cuban.
Yeah, basically, they used to have a show for 8 years called World's Greatest Tribute Bands. And we were on there. We were the only Hendrix on that show. They had all of these tributes. They had like 4 Beatles tributes and 3 Prince tributes, but we were the only Hendrix band on there. So we're playing for an hour, all Hendrix songs, for about over 40 million people.
Wow.
And we have clips of that on the Hendrix website. Even on my personal website, you can see clips of that. That says it all, right there. The show was taped live at the Whiskey A Go-Go in California.
Wow.
And that was a big event. I mean, we wasn't expecting that. And that's Kiss the Sky, like I said, it's the longest running and only authentic Hendrix show. There is nothing like this has ever been done by Jimmy, and I feel he deserves it. Not even the own guy's family is doing this for him. Keep that in mind. He deserves this and more, even much more than I can do.
That really bugged me. I mean, I think it bugged Dave as well. And like, I can't wrap my head around it. It's like, it's just bread and butter for you. It's more people buying the albums. It goes to you. It's like, what's wrong with you?
It's spreading his legacy. I mean, the man, so many people, and inspired so many people, and recreated the way people thought of the guitar. Why would you put a damper on that? It just doesn't make sense.
I mean, of course I have my thoughts, and I really can't, voice them. My lawyer told me, hey, Bleu, be careful, Bleu, be careful what you say. But you have to keep in mind, like I said, this is the closest thing to Hendrix that you're going to see. This is actually Jimmy. I was there. So it's not like I'm doing a tribute. So I was there. You know what I mean? I felt the guy's bad breath. He used to smoke Cool super long. I smelled the bad breath when he got close to me, and so I was there. I also do lecture demonstrations on Hendrix where I talk about what we were talking about, the politics, mainly the spirituality and the music. So I get into that. I can go into the recording studio and record his songs on all of the instruments and singing. This is listen, nobody has done this with any artist. You know what I mean? So not just Hendrix, with any artist. This is the most comprehensive thing on any artist. So all of these links, like I said, are on my Linktree, where you can just go from one to the other. But you'll see this is the closest thing. Often I get other names thrown up in my face. Oh, yeah, well, you should see blah, blah. Fine. There's room for everybody. But what I'm saying, Kiss the Sky, what me and Mike Gotch do, is the closest thing you're going to see the Hendrix, because we reproduce his iconic performances the way he did it. Matter of fact, the music is taken on a far another level. He didn't have time to develop his sound in 4 years. I had over 50 years.
Yeah.
So it better be better, in a sense, than what he was doing. I'm not speaking about the playing. I'm speaking about the music, his bass players, his drummers. All of that is on another level because of new things that happened in music since Jimmy died. We take advantage of that while still keeping that Jimmy sound.
Mark also told me, prior when he's, he's pitching and like, Mark, you don't have to pitch Jimmy. I want Jimmy on the show. Music and art and that type of stuff is really big with me. He's, like you playing with all these other guys that have played with Jimi Hendrix and trying to, get this. It's almost like, remember when Paul McCartney did Rockestra?
Yeah.
You should just do like Hendrix, Hendrixa, whatever it is. Everybody that played with Jimmy, just one big giant, like, no, we're all going to come together. We're going to raise money for whatever. Usually when you do something charity wise, you know, people are like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. But I love the fact you played with all of them, and you're coming. You're an eyewitness. There are not many eyewitnesses to this.
That's what's important. And I had also forgot to mention too that before Jimmy died, he submitted a film script to Warner Brothers of a movie idea he wanted to do. And the movie idea was based on a character named Black Gold, who was sort of like an Indiana Jones guy. You know what I mean? Gets into all these adventures and things like that. He even did a little soundtrack for it and everything. Well, I happened to see that script, and I just finished a feature film that I'm doing that is based on that script. It's not the exact story, but it's based on that script that I saw from Jimmy. Like I said, the most comprehensive thing ever done on Hendrix.
Just remember, Jimi Hendrix, James Marshall Hendrix, he jumped out of airplanes.
No, yeah, but see, a lot of people say, "Oh, Jimmy was a veteran," and blah blah blah. No, he was a veteran technically, but he wasn't a military man. All he did was walk around and play guitar. That's why he damn near got kicked out. You know what I mean? He didn't want to fight. So he went through the motions of the training, but he wasn't a military. I mean, I know some military men. There's guys in my family who are stone military guys. Jimmy was the exact opposite, man. He didn't want to do that.
That's no. I didn't mean it as that problem. Like he's a stone, like he's a killer. He's going out there. There's a special kind of crazy. Every one of those paratrooper guys to get those wings, you're jumping out of a perfectly good airplane, folks.
Yeah,
perfectly good.
Tethered.
So, yeah, it's just insane. But I mean, what? I that would be really cool. That is something that I think we're at that time where that would be a great movie to come out with. Someone should option the movie, put it out. And that's
what him jumping out the plane? What?
No. I was just thinking about the Black Indiana Jones thing, but you did
Black
a full
Gold.
Black Gold, you said?
Yeah, that's the name of the character he came up with.
The movie you just did, say it's based on that.
It's not the exact replica, but I use many elements from that script. I happen to spend a lot of time viewing that script, and I viewed his FBI file, so a lot of that's in the movie as well. Yeah.
So when would this movie be available, or do you have a release date yet, or no?
No, we're shopping it. We want a good deal. I got a nice sponsor who sponsored the film and everything, and right now we're shopping it. But I only brought it up to say that, like I said, nothing like this has ever been done by an artist, especially by the guy who's tributing the artist. Nothing has ever been done, anybody. And this is what we're doing with Hendrix.
FBI file. Could
Yes.
we go back to that for a second?
Yeah, we got a couple. We got like 3 minutes left. Let's go. FBI file. What do you want to do? What do you want to know about Jimmy?
Well, when we are Dave, you speaking to Dave?
Well, I'm asking David to ask you the question. Like, what do you want?
He's translating.
Yeah, translating. I'm going to translate some more. Look, I'm using the special language. So, like, what was anything like super spectacular in that FBI file?
No, because it's heavily redacted. And I didn't see all of them. There's so many, but it's heavily redacted. But you can still come away from that and get an idea. This guy was dangerous. This guy was very dangerous, man. I also saw John Lennon's files too, and the same thing. Wow, what? Yikes! Yeah.
So, what was the craziest thing that you might have seen that wasn't?
Like I said, there's stuff I can't talk about because when they come after me,
his back. You want to go to the Bronx and go help him out? Come down. We'll go down.
But a lot of that too is in one of the books I mentioned, Alec Constantine book, The Covert War on Rock. There was a covert war on rock music, especially after Woodstock. When you have 500,000 people yelling higher like Slade did, and you can hear it from Manhattan. That's how loud it was. That's dangerous. I was a kid at Woodstock, and I was at least astute enough to know that's dangerous. That's not gonna. They ain't gonna make that last. That's dangerous.
Well, it continued into the 80s. I mean, look at that whole thing, Tipper Gore and, like the Judas Priest lawsuits, and Ozzy got sued. They're like, my kid killed himself. It's your fault. It's like,
yeah.
I never met your kid.
Right.
Hey, I just have a quick question, Jimmy. When you've done some of the recreations, Jerry Velez has been a performer with you. Can you tell the audience a little bit about his career, with Jimmy and what he did afterwards? That's an impressive draw to what you do.
Yeah, very quickly. Jerry Velez was the Latino guy at Woodstock with Jimmy on congas, and after that concert, he was very young then. And after that concert, he went on to be one of the founders of Spyro Gyra. He is a brilliant percussionist, brilliant. Just the man knows the instrument. He knows the esoteric nature of the instrument. That's important too.
Yeah. God, I should have Mark just do the opener, and just because he has a breadth of knowledge that is, it's out. You must be, Mark. You're going to do the opening from now on for every one of the shows. Because he was telling me these things, and I know, like I hear the bands. I listen to Spyro Gyra. I listen to that, and it's just what's really cool is the fact that, yeah, you listen to it, but I was sitting next to him out there on the front step. I had access to him. It's an amazing feat. I can't thank you enough for putting on, kind of fighting through and doing the review. Any other reviews besides James Brown, Jimi Hendrix, Reverend Al, Al Green, totally different Reverend. Same city, totally different Reverend. And are you planning it? Doing anything else? Like we did mention Otis Redding at one point.
No, man. I'm at my age. I'm staying in my lane, man. Those two guys. James Brown, I did as a kid before I went to high school. But those two, Hendrix and Al Green, are very important. So those are the two I'm staying with. Yeah.
Well, I hopefully I get to see you. What time in March? Early March? Or you're gonna be March 1st?
Civic Center.
Yeah. We Kiss the Sky. You can go to the tour dates on kisstheskytribute.com. Go to the tour. Actually, they're updating the site, but you should be able to get an idea. And we're constantly getting booked now as well. The gigs are coming in, so it's the new year.
Just keep going. I'm gonna put the link tree into the description. I just checked; it wasn't there. I thought I had it, so I'm gonna put your link tree there. I'm gonna put the Kiss the Sky links in there. And you got to go see Jimmy and do his thing, because it's, as we've seen, it's out of this world. You're doing a great job. That's why, I can't thank you enough for coming on. And anytime, you're always welcome on the show. If you want to come in and promote whatever, you got my information. So worst comes to worst, I'll go through your agent Mark down there in the bottom. But you'll probably see Dave there at that show, because if it's music, and it's the South and whatever, it doesn't matter. He's going, and that's the difference between some of these other people. Like, it's right. I will wager right now. I'm going to call him up like a day from now. Well, I'm going to see him actually this weekend. He's coming to visit, but I'm like, how much Hendrix did you watch? Damn it. I watched the whole thing. I went to Monterey. I went to this. I was listening to this. Yeah. So, and that's all because you, and I love what you're doing. So I can't thank you enough for being, on my show. I appreciate you, and I wish you only the best. Doing what you do.
Well, Brian, man, from the bottom of my heart, man, I really appreciate you having me, man. You're one of the very few who are really interested in this idea of Jimmy being other than a great guitar player. So I appreciate you having me on, my brother. Seriously.
I appreciate that. Thank you very much. I love music. I love making music. I love everything you say. Why we made music, why we hung out with music. I mean, we did it full circle. A bit older, but we're there, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate the feeling that you get, and I think maybe some of that, Egyptian behind you and other esoterica and these mysteries really help when Jimmy's there and he's doing his thing. You get into a zone. I've seen it. I've been to dead every show. I've seen it. There's always somebody that's like a whirling dervish, and we can't thank you enough for that. We need more music in this world. Less fighting, more music. So I thank you. I want to thank my friend Dave B, from coming on.
Thank you. And Jimmy, it was great. Thank you.
You
opened my eyes.
Yeah, nice meeting you, Mark, man. I wish you the best.
The man in a very different
Nice
way.
meeting you, Mark. Yeah. Mark's his agent, Dave.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, most definitely.
I met Mark through the Beards, and he's just an awesome human being, and I can't thank you enough. Seriously, Mark I told him when I was going to do the show, he's like, well, do you want this guy? Do you want that guy? And I'm like, I love you for that, brother. He's always welcome on the show. I'm like, I'm just going to include him on any, everything I do from now on. And I appreciate you again. And I always close the show out the same way. I wrote it and I'm going to play it. So if it wasn't for everybody that was been in the chat, let's watch it. That watches it live, watches on the replay. If it wasn't for what you do, Jimmy, and it's always about you and you being the audience and people to listen and love it. And I wish everybody a blessed day. Have a blessed week. Next week, we have psychic John Russell, and hopefully he'll be able to answer some good questions. So, Jimmy, if you need a question, just put it in there or send me a text. Like I'll let you know. It's like he's going to do it now, But thank you again, and thank every one of you. Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
I'll see you guys backstage. Bye.
Bye.
You, it's always been you. God showed me you. I have been searching decades for you. I found you, I lost you. My heart is broken without you. My soul aches for you. I need you, I want you. My days are filled with you. I've seen the future with you. My home is with you. I have felt the future with you. My nights are filled with you. Love is you. True love is you. My happiness is you. Every past life is with you. My dreams are filled with you. Life is meaningless without you. My future is with you. I will fight for you. I will defend you. I will give up my life for you. Whatever it takes for you. Nothing else matters but you. I love you. I love you. I love you. God showed me you. I have been searching decades for you. I found you, I lost you. My heart is broken without you. My soul aches for you. I need you, I want you. My days are filled with you. I have seen the future with you. My home is with you. I have felt the future with you. My nights are filled with you. Love is you, true love is you. Love is you, true love is you. My happiness is you. Every past life is with you. My dreams are filled with you. Life is meaningless without you. My future is with you. I will fight for you. I will defend you. I would give up my life for you. Whatever it takes for you. Nothing else matters but you. I love you. I love you. Life is meaningless without you. My future is with you.